Hey there, DOCasts members. Welcome to another episode of DOCasts. In this episode, we're going to go over securing your PHPMyAdmin installation. Now, in this video, I'm using a PHPMyAdmin installation from VistaCP. So if you go to vistacp.com and you go through some of the VistaCP videos on getting that installed on your DigitalOcean droplet. So if you go to vistacp.com, you'll see a awesome, easy to use control panel here. Now, you don't have to be using the VistaCP control panel, which includes the installation of PHPMyAdmin. But if you are, you can definitely follow along. If you're not and you're using a regular installation of PHPMyAdmin, you can still follow along because all you would need to really know is where your configuration files are for PHPMyAdmin. Now let's go ahead and work through this. Right now I'm logged into my droplet here via SSH. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take the information from the VistaCP documentation in order to get the configuration files for PHPMyAdmin. So I'll go into the documentation here. I'll look for config and log locations for the Debian and Ubuntu. Then I'll scroll down just a little for the PHPMyAdmin. I'll grab this configuration file right here and I'll open that up in Vim. So if I just copy that, I'll type in Vim and then I'll paste that information in here. What I want to do is I want to go to this directories area and I want to add in some options here for this settings file. And what I'm going to do is add in the order deny privileges for my PHPMyAdmin installation. So as you can see, this is for the directory user/share/PHPMyAdmin that Apache, our web server, is pulling up. What I'll do is I'll type in order deny, and we're going to deny from all, and then we're going to allow from my IP address. So how do I get my IP address? Well, if you go into your browser here and you just go to Google. So if I go to google.com and say what's my IP, and you just grab your IP address here, you can paste that into your PHP configuration file, and then all you have to do now is save the settings. So if I save the settings to write and quit, and then I restart my Apache web server so that the changes can take place. I'll restart it real quick, and what I'll do is I'll go back into my browser and I'll go to PHPMyAdmin / then I'll go to my IP address, or if you've set up a domain name with your web server, you put your domain name in there, and then you go to PHPMyAdmin, and then we'll see if we can access it. Looks like we have a 502 gateway. All right, so the settings, something's wrong with the settings that I just set. So if I go back into Vim, and not the IP address, but I grab that documentation once again. So I grab that configuration file, open it up, and I'll take a look at this. All right, so it looks like we added in an extra space here when there shouldn't have been. So I'll go ahead and I'll write and I'll quit out of that. And then I'll restart Apache real quick. And we'll go ahead and we'll check our browser. Let's go ahead and refresh this page. Alright, so it looks like PHPMyAdmin, we're getting the page for our IP address. Now, how do we check whether the settings are valid? Well, if we go back into our settings and we try to change this IP address to something else. So let's say I comment this out here and I'll use the pound sign to do that. What I'll do is I'll allow from localhost as a placeholder, and I'll just go ahead and save that. And I'll restart Apache one more time. Then we'll go ahead and we'll check the browser. If I refresh it, it says it's forbidden. Alright, so it's forbidden. I don't have permission to access it from my IP address. So that's how you know it's working. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and reapply the changes here. And I'll just uncomment this. And you can have more than one IP address at a time that you're allowing from. So as you can see, I have the local host and I have my IP address. Now if I go ahead and I restart the server, and I'll use one of Vim's tricks here to do that. So service Apache to restart. It's going to restart it for me. And then I'll just go back into my browser and it should allow me to go ahead and access the PHPMyAdmin page once again. So that's just one step you can take. Now let's reinforce this step with another security measure, and that one's going to be the user authentication using Apache. So what we'll do is we'll go back into terminal, and then we'll go ahead And we'll make sure that your allow override is set to all. And what that will do is allow you to create a .htaccess file in which you can go ahead and put in some basic authentication measures. So what we'll do is we'll quit out of that. So just make sure that your PHPMyAdmin Apache configuration file has that override all. And if you're not running Vista CP, the chances are that this is all within your Apache configuration file. You'll just have to search to figure out what that file is, and then just add in this line to your directory for PHPMyAdmin. All right, so let's quit out of that. Keep in mind, if you did have to make changes to make that allow override all, you need to restart your Apache server so that the changes can take place. Then what we'll do is we'll generate a user for our user authentication. We'll use the Htaccess utility, and then we'll pass through the C for create. And then what we'll do is we'll create a user in our PHPMyAdmin area. So I'll do the PHPMyAdmin / and then we'll go ahead and name the file that we want the user authentication information to be stored in. And what I'll do is I'll just put in my login as the password that we're going to store it as. Some people will go ahead and use Htaccess or they'll use password. The choice is yours. I'll just go ahead and use my login just as an example. And then what we'll do is pass the username for the user that we're going to generate. So this one will just be user, and we'll type in the password here, retype it in again, make sure you remember this. Then it went ahead and added a password for the user. Keep in mind, if you don't specify a directory for this password to be stored in, it will store it within your root home directory. So when you're setting up the configuration file for your Htaccess, just know that you'll leave this part out, and then just leave the name itself so that it stores it within that directory, being the home directory. All right, so what we'll do is we'll make our way to this user share / PHPMyAdmin directory for Vista CP, and then let's create an Htaccess file. The Htaccess file will contain 4 lines of information. It's going to contain the authentication type, which is basic in this case, authentication name, access to the PHPMyAdmin area, so you can go ahead and change this to whatever you wish it to say. Then the authentication user file. We want to make sure that we change this to the authentication user file that we set up. So it's my login for my example, and then we want to make sure that we require a valid user. All right, so once we have these settings in here, what we'll do is we'll write and we'll quit out of that. For safe measures, I'll just restart my Apache services. Let me clear this up real quick. I'll jump back into my browser here, and then we'll refresh the page. All right, so now it's asking us to log in to access the PHPMyAdmin area. So that's really cool. That's just one extra step of security. So you notice that we have access to the PHPMyAdmin area. If you go back into that file, the Htaccess file, this is the text that's displaying within this login area. So I'll just type in user, and then I'll put in my password here, and then I'll just log into the page. So it's going to give me access to the page, and on top of that, it's going to check my IP address to see if I'm from a valid IP, and then now I can go ahead and log into my PHPMyAdmin area. Now these are just 2 of the many steps that you could take to secure PHPMyAdmin. In future videos, we can go over enabling and forcing SSL with PHPMyAdmin, changing the PHPMyAdmin directory to something else besides PHPMyAdmin, because if a hacker has a bot that they're using, what they'll do is they'll typically target PHPMyAdmin right off the bat. And then last but definitely not least, we can disallow the root user from accessing PHPMyAdmin. And that's just because root is one of the common usernames that a bot will go ahead and use to try to get its way into your PHPMyAdmin installation. So that's it for this video. Like I said, in future videos, we can cover more on PHPMyAdmin security. If you have any feedback, comments, please leave them below. And if you're not already a DOCasts user, please sign up. It's free and it's no cost to you. So just sign up and you'll be able to leave me some feedback on future videos. Hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and thanks again for watching.